Hello and welcome to the Citizen Service Show. I am with Sonya Harris Hall, your host. Crime seems to be on everyone's minds these days, and joining me for an in-depth discussion of the Memphis Police Department is our very own Director Toney Armstrong, who heads up the Memphis Police Department.
Probably gonna get a lot of phone calls about police harassment or whatever, but you need to understand the difference between aggressive policing and police harassment.
Yes.
I get phone calls all the time with, Director Armstrong, your officers are harassing my son. And I said, okay, well, tell me what was going on. Well, the other day my son was standing on the corner, this and that. I said, okay, well, first we can get to the bottom of this problem right now. I'll make a deal with you. If your son not standing on the corner, my officers won't be harassing him. And people, I know citizens look at that and say, well, that's harassment. But what happens, if you put a bunch of young men on a corner, one of them have on what somebody else perceives as a threatening T-shirt or the wrong color T-shirt or whatever, and you get another group of young men drive by, what's going to happen? Right. So we have found certainly in my professional career that nothing positive comes out of a group of young men hanging around, standing on a corner. Something is going to happen that's not going to go very well, and more than likely somebody's going to get hurt, or even worse, God forbid, be a kill. So that's one of the things that's in the realm for me of us keeping your neighborhoods safe. We've identified that that's one of the things that we have to do. Gang houses, we're going to be very, very aggressive at closing those down. Houses in the neighborhood that the citizens have identified as being problematic as far as potential drug houses or drug houses or whatever, we're going to be a thorn in your side. So I say that to say I don't want citizens to misinterpret aggressive policing as for harassment. So because again, there has to be a restoration of order. I can't continue to receive the phone calls just like I just.
That's right. And what I hear, Director Armstrong, is an appeal to the community to embrace this process. And with any type of change, there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some discomfort. But in the end, what we're all trying to arrive at is a safer community. And if it means that we have to be a little uncomfortable in the process, then so be it. But understand that process has to occur. It
has to occur. You have to look at the big picture. Right. I took your home is probably your biggest investment.
Yes.
And why should you live in your home with restrictions? Yes, it's my home, but my child can't go outside to play. Right. Or they can only go in the backyard to play. Or I can't walk to the store, or they can't walk to the store, or I can't allow them to walk to school. Right. Why should you live in a community where you have your biggest investment and you can't fully enjoy your biggest investment? So citizens more than likely have to have a buy-in to say, at the end of the day, this is our community. And this, they have to draw the line with us. They have to draw the line and say, this will not be tolerated in my community.
And I think you're speaking to there's that lady that you mentioned earlier in this segment. That's not the only mama that's concerned about her baby being subjected to criminal behavior. She's raising her child the best way she can, but the outside element says otherwise. That's not the only mom in the community. The senior citizen that you mentioned, that's not the only senior citizen in the community that's impacted. A prisoner in their home, so to speak.
It's very rarely that I do a lot of town hall meetings. I do a lot of neighborhood association meetings. It's very rarely do you attend one that you don't have somebody to step up and say, Director Armstrong, what are you doing about these gang members in my neighborhood? What are you doing about this drug house? What are you doing about guys walking the streets all night long? So at some point, it's not going to fix itself. At some point, somebody has to step up and say, you know what? Okay, enough is enough. Somebody has to step up and say, okay, I'm going to make some people uncomfortable, but you have to look at who are we making uncomfortable. Really. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're not uncomfortable. I'm glad. I'm happy to see you doing what you're supposed to be doing. So again, there's an education piece there that we have to do there's a difference between aggressive policing and police harassment.
Well, now you mentioned statistics and how they drive, and they will drive where you target in the community. There's also a statistic that stays on the minds of citizens, and that's the homicide statistics. How are we faring in our homicide numbers?
Last year we finished with 147. This year we're up to, I believe we had 15 homicides this year compared to 13 last year. Okay. But you know, last year we finished the homicide bureau finished with an 87% clearance rate, which is a tremendous feat to do that. If you look at the national average, it's somewhere around 64%.
Wow.
You know, even with that said, we still have found that age dynamic that I spoke of previously as being the driving force behind homicides. And more specifically to that, we still are also finding that more than likely the people that commit homicides are people that are very familiar with each other. Very seldom do you find a random person to kill somebody they just don't know, unless it's a commission of another crime. A carjacking gone bad, a robbery gone bad. Or more than likely you have DVs, even if it's two gang members, they still know each other. They're still very familiar with each other. They had a disagreement. They didn't know how to resolve that disagreement without resulting to violence. And you know, kids now don't necessarily get into fist fights. Now,
no, unfortunately they don't.
Unfortunately, they don't. You know.
But you hit on something which I think a lot of citizens say, why can't the police stop the homicide? And you said that, you know, most times people they know each other, they're familiar with each other. So is it really something that the police can do to? I mean, how do you respond to that question? In
that respect, no. There's no way to stop two people that, you know, if you look at the homicide that we just had a couple of weeks ago, young man has a disagreement with his girlfriend, kills her parents. Is there a crime strategy that could have prevented that? Only if we knew that there were problems in that house in the first place and you could have deferred them to some domestic violence related source. But I also previously spoke about kids standing on the corners and drive-by shootings. And, that's a strategy that can maybe possibly, if that's a problem in that particular neighborhood, we found out that can be a contributing factor to that can lead to homicides. But homicides are more likely crimes of passion. They're emotionally driven, emotionally charged. People their emotions kind of get out of whack. And they're not thinking at the time. You know, I've sit across the table from a lot of people that have committed homicides, and I'll be honest with you, good things happen, bad things happen to good people. You know, I've done everything right in my life up until now. On this day, for whatever reason, I lost it. I completely lost control. You know.
And I did hear you, and I think the viewers need to hear you say that your solve rate is higher than the national average. Was that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So say that again, because I really like viewers to hear that we do well, and that might have gotten sort of muffled under all of the other. So talk again about what our solve rate is compared to the national average.
Last year we finished with about an 87% solve rate, and the national average is somewhere around 64%.
So we're at least 23% higher than the national average in terms of solving homicides.
And our homicide bureau does that on a consistent basis, which is extremely difficult to do. You're talking to somebody who has a lot of experience in homicide. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of dedication. You spend a lot of hours doing that. And not just for my homicide bureaus. You got our whole investigative bureaus as a whole. They do a tremendous job down there. It takes a lot of very special men and women to pull it off. It's some grueling work. Very, very grueling work.
And I do hear you stressing that, you know, in addition to that work, that we are really targeting our youth because they tend to be our primary offenders. I mean, that is our reality right now in the city of Memphis.
And not just in the city of Memphis, nationally.
Oh, that's good to know, because people think it's only us.
People think that Memphis is unique to crime. You know, one of the things that I do when I go out of town, I very rarely look at the news here because I'm always on it.